Now you need to do is a circular motion with your left arm while you rotate your right elbows so that it points in your right direction. When Flower tries to intimidate me, she somehow gets the movement completely wrong and she ends up with her left elbow bent as well. Flower, that's not... Arms didn't move like that. I say, I'm sorry, Flower says in a panicky voice. Can you do it again? I'll get it right this time. I think it would be better to start off again from the beginning, I say. Okay, Flower says as she puts her arm back down. Well, her whole body looks stiff, completely stiff, right? So, with both of your knees slightly bent, you first put the arm on your left side in front like this. Flower says she tries to copy my movement again. Flower, that's your right arm, not your left, I say. We meant my left side, not yours. Flower says, sorry, I got confused there for a second. You do realize that we're both facing the same direction, right? You're right. That's right, Flower says while laughing very nervously. We are facing in the same direction, silly me. Flower, you're being too tense, Luna says all of a sudden as her eyes turn bright blue. Remember your breathing exercise, pedal. Flower says with a sound of great relief in her voice. I mean, Luna, yes, you're right, I forgot about the breathing. I'll do that right now. After hearing Luna, Flower almost immediately calms down, then she begins to breathe deeply and slowly with her eyes closed. In a few seconds of breathing exercises again, later Flower opens her eyes again, looking completely relaxed. Okay, that was very confusing. What the hell is happening with these two? Okay, I'm guessing they're just like, she's just trying to be like mature, and without Luna around she gets nervous or some shit. Okay, I'm ready to begin again. Flower says as she gives me a military salute. Awaiting your orders, Captain. That's amazing, I say. She calmed down in an instant. How did you do that? Flower has always been very bad at following instructions when feeling under pressure, Luna says. I usually help her calm her down in these situations, well, by having her focus on my voice instead of her help, but she said that you don't want any help from me. So I stayed silent this time around. I was really starting to panic that Luna wouldn't say anything, Flower says. I didn't realize that you two had a discussion about this before I woke up. So Luna's been acting as your own private coach inside your mind for the past 20 years, and I say. Well, not always, but she helps out a lot, Flower says, and in return I try to help her when she needs to talk to people. Like I tell her that what's okay to say and what's not, so that she doesn't upset anyone by mistake. She can be really blunt at times, but I did not realize that the two were so dependent on each other, I say. Sorry about that, I guess I shouldn't have. Instead of teaching Flower the spells by myself. Alright, the spell, Flower says, and then she begins to execute the movements that she learned from me in a flawless manner. Alright, so it was knees bent, left arm front, right elbow bent, and rotate the left arm and the right elbow and wait a minute, Flower says, I recognize these motions. These are the same motions that I needed for an old spell of mine, except in reverse. So if I'm not mistaken, the next move should be something like this. She then begins to recreate the exact movements needed for the spell I was about to teach her, and without making even a single mistake. When she is done, she looks at me for confirmation. Was that the spell you were trying to teach me? Flower says, yeah, it was exactly that, I say. Well, I haven't been using movements to cast spells. I've been using movements to cast this spell for over 10 years, Flower says. I just do it by controlling the flow of energy nowadays. I'm surprised that you know one of my spells, Barry. I never wrote about it anywhere. Flower, I already told you, Luna says. The spell was first invented long before you were born. You just discovered it instinctively due to your ethereal nature. Anyway, I'll take it from here. I believe Flower should already know most of the spells required for the trap, except maybe one or two. It will be faster if I just tell her which spells to use in reverse than if you teach her the right movements from the scratch. Right, I say, go ahead then. Just like Luna said, it didn't take long for Flower to learn the rest of the spells and start disarming the trap. When she began to with the spelling technique, move closer to her so that I could see if there were any fluctuation in the trap's aura that might lead to it getting triggered. But fortunately, despite Luna's worries, Flower managed to keep control of her magic flow until the end. Once she was done, the energy radiant from the trap slowly disappeared, indicating the trap had been successfully disarmed. Finally, Melindra says, now let's get going. I think I may have a pretty good idea of where we can find an exit that leads to the surface. What makes you say that? Kate says as we all begin walking again. Shortly before we reached the trap earlier, I caught a glimpse of a person that somehow went right through one of the stadium walls, then disappeared without a trace. What? That's something. She didn't think she should mention that. And Melinda says, I could barely make out of the person's aura due to all of the walls between us and him, but I'm willing to bet that he used some secret corridor to get out of here. There was no traps or enemies between us and that place, so we can go directly to investigate. There was somebody else in these tunnels beside us, Kate says. Why didn't you tell us sooner? Well, I didn't want to get anyone I didn't want to get anyone too distracted while the trap was still active. Melindra says, because it's better to keep a calm and focused mind when you're trying to dispel a magical trap. I figured it was something that that could wait, given that we were never in immediate danger. Has this person returned since he disappeared through the wall? Kate asks. No, Melindra says. He never came back, and I haven't sensed any other people in these corridors aside from him. What makes you think that this secret corridor will lead us to the surface? Do you think this person, it's possible that this person detected us and want to get reinforcements? Was this person a mage? What do you think you are doing down here? That's more important, I think. Yes, it was a mage, Minuto says. My guess is that he was just finishing a regular inspection of the magical traps. He was going back home for the night. Of course, there's no way to know that for certain. You were saying earlier that you could barely sense the person's aura. Layla says, is there any possibility that this was someone you already met? Like, for example, one of the royal guards? Now that you mentioned it, the aura did seem familiar. Minuto says, I guess it could have been one of the royal guards, but I'm not very sure. By any chance that was Gontork, the captain of the guards, will be in for one hell of a fight. I think you should say you're in to die, because that's exactly what's going to happen. Only if they are still here waiting for us, Minuto says, and I would find that very unlikely. If someone as powerful as them knew we were coming, they would have no need to hide. Yes, you do have a point, Brainan says. Let's try to pick up the pace a bit. Minuto says, if I wouldn't want your friends at the rebel base to start sending out search parties to look for us because we've been missing for too long. We all follow Melinda for about 10 more days. We all follow Melinda for around 10 more minutes, so we are so through the maze. So through the maze-like corridors until she suddenly stops in front of an empty black cavern wall, and she begins to study it closely. We quickly realize that it was a secret door she was talking about earlier. So we approach the area as well and try to look for clues that might help us open the hidden passage. Step aside, Luna says, I've seen Pyron opening secret underground tunnel doors more than enough times to know that you're doing it all wrong. Let me see. If I remember how he does it, she then goes near the black cavern wall. She knocks on it 2 times while directing some of the magical energy into this iridium wall. Reacting to her touch, the wall slowly retracts inside the tunnel behind it and then slides to the side, leaving enough space for several people to enter the secret corridor at once. As Melindra had guessed, the passageway leads directly to a set of stairs made of stone, which are heading in an upward direction, presumably towards the surface. Nicely done, Melindra says. Let's see where this leads then. What is the point of this trapped underground area? That's what I'm confused about so far. Once we are all inside the hidden passage, Luna touches the wall from before with her hand casually, causing it to slowly slide back in its original position. We then begin to climb up the stairs, which are being lit by bright blue crystal embedded into the cavern wall, just like the tunnels outside. But also like the tunnels from the rebel base, the ones below the arena from Helios. There sure seems to be a lot of crystals and ceridium walls underneath Varathia. I wonder if they're all in any way connected to any peculiar stuff happening on the continent, like the talking animals and the mythical creatures, and the fact that this is the one place on earthen plane, where you can access the Magium, according to Arca. Although I'll ask her about these things when we get back. We stay perfectly quiet while we climb up the stairs and not get away from our possession in case anyone is waiting for us at the other end of the tunnel. According to Melindra, the wall on the other side has an unusually large concentration of ceridium in it, which makes it almost impossible to sense anything beyond it. However, this also means that the enemy should not be able to sense us approaching either, which gives us the element of surprise. As soon as we reach the wall at the end of the tunnel, Luna gives us a signal to get ready. She then knocks lightly on the secret door like before, causing it to slide away to make way for us to exit the tunnel. To our disappointment, the stairs did not in fact lead us to the surface, but yet another underground room, although this one seems less like a natural cavern, more like a man-made cellar with rather high ceilings. This particular room that we ended up in seems to be some sort of closet, because there are a lot of buckets filled with water in there, along with some wet racks that have probably been recently used to wipe the floors. Please don't tell me we're inside the castle or something. Once Luna closes the secret door behind us, she steps in front of the group again. She starts walking towards the next room, just to be full of people, judging by what I can sense of their auras from here. I think you already sensed You have already sensed this by now, but the room that you're about to enter is filled with mages, Miller tells us in a low voice. If they try to attack us when we walk out of there, I suggest that Kate blocks their way with a wall of ice, and we retreat back into the tunnels. By the time they figure out how to open the secret door, we'll immediately be